This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of February 24th, 2020, and it's going to be a weird one, my friends. And I had this thought this morning to do this podcast, and let's actually see. If you're listening to it, then I actually followed through it, and it made through all the steps of review that these things have to go through. But if you didn't, well, I guess you're not listening to this, so it doesn't matter. Okay, let's get started. So I have a couple of friends that I email with over the years, and sometimes the subject turns to AT&T or Dish or one of the other major vendors that Solid Signal carries, and it usually starts with some article on somebody else's blog where somebody has said something highly controversial. Somebody has made a claim that they know what's going on in the future, and it's either doom and gloom or it's amazing, but either way, it's the beginning of that conversation. And I have to say, a lot of times, more often than not, the conversation ends with me saying, well, I say, if these folks really had the inside track, would they be publishing it on a blog? Would the CEO of a major corporation be breaking some sort of bombshell to some minor blog that you've never heard of? No, that just doesn't happen. And so I encourage people not to believe everything that they read, not to believe everything that they hear. And of course, that's a little bit weird coming from a guy who publishes a blog and has a podcast that you're listening to right now, who really kind of wants you to believe him. That's how this whole thing kind of works. But there's a little bit of a difference. I think that everybody on the internet, everybody who does a blog or a podcast or some sort of informational site that isn't a qualified news organization is going to have a point of view. At Solid Signal, the point of view is that you're probably interested in the kind of things that we buy at Solid Signal. And the Solid Signal blog is going to focus on that. And we're going to highlight the good stuff from the vendors that you've already bought. And it doesn't mean that we're going to completely ignore the bad stuff. And there have been plenty of times when I've called out a vendor right on the Solid Signal blog or right in this podcast for doing something that I didn't really agree with. But those times are nowhere near as common as those times that I'm going to be supportive of what our vendors are doing out there. And I mean, it does kind of make sense. SolidSignal.com is business, and we're here to make money. So I'm being completely transparent about that. And I'm asking you to look at some of these other sources to ask what their motivation is. If you're looking at a financial blog, do you really think that they have somebody on staff who truly understands the technical side of all the things they're talking about? I've published a lot about how there would be a lot of technical difficulties with getting Dish and DirecTV to merge. In a lot of ways, it's less of a challenge now than it was in past years, but it's still an extremely significant challenge, and I don't see it happening easily or anytime soon. The same thing with this persistent rumor that satellite TV is going to go away and be 100% replaced by internet-delivered video. Look, obviously, there are live TV streaming services, and Dish has one, that's Sling. AT&T has one, AT&T TV. And Hulu has one, and YouTube has one, and Philo has one. There are tons of live TV streaming services out there, one for every budget. And they're there. So for me to deny something like that would be ridiculous. But on the other hand, to think that over 19 million DirecTV subscribers, representing something on the order of 50 million individuals, are going to just one day up and decide to all move over to streaming at the same time doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Let me just put it that way. I think that what we're going to see in the next year is AT&T TV promoted pretty heavily because it's a new thing. Well, of course they're going to promote it pretty heavily, and that's exciting. And are they going to promote DirecTV just as heavily? Maybe not. But that doesn't really matter because DirecTV is here. DirecTV is established. DirecTV is one of those you know what you get commodities at this point. The hardware selection is fixed and everything works the way it should. It's getting incrementally better. But no, it's not. It doesn't have the shine, the hotness that it did back in 1994. And to be honest with you, neither do I. But more importantly, satellite TV isn't going anywhere. And any blog that says that it is and it's rapidly disappearing just doesn't understand the economics of the whole thing. And especially, I hate to say negative things about anybody, and so I'm not going to name names, but there are a few blogs out there and a few bloggers who have been kicking dirt on DirecTV for decades, and I don't know what they get out of it. I don't know what the end game is there, but it seems like there are a few folks out there who just go out of their way to make sure that DirecTV looks as bad as possible, with every little bit of news being twisted so it sounds kind of negative. Like I said, it's pretty easy if you spend some time with any of these sites to know where they lean. And it's pretty easy to know where the Solid Signal blog leans too. I've said it before. We lean toward the products that you buy at Solid Signal. That's who we are. And I make absolutely no apology for that, because if you're enthusiastic about the things that we sell, you're going to want to read more about them. And if it's something that's new to you, you're going to want tutorial content that really makes sense to you. That's what we try to deliver. Every year we deliver well over 1,000 articles and well over 200 new videos to try to give you an idea of how best to use the stuff that you buy at Solid Signal. That's what we're here for, folks. What are those other guys that here for? I don't know. What are those guys trying to do when they put out these articles that don't mean anything? They're just trying to get clicks, that's all. I don't know about that game. What I know about is this podcast and the Solid Signal blog, which I also manage, blog.solidsignal.com. I know that we're doing pretty well just taking care of the folks who like to learn about the things that Solid Signal sells. I know that numbers are going up constantly, and I thank you, everybody who has liked and subscribed to this podcast. I thank you, so that those numbers continue to go up as well. Everybody who has liked a video that we've published, I thank you for that. And really, the answer is that, we can be one big positive community and be doing great stuff out there with the technology that we have. Or we can be using it to tear each other down. Some blogs have gone that way. This one sure isn't going to. That's about it for the podcast for this week. I hope you have a great one. Like I said, like and subscribe, and I'll be back again next week.